Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So wonderful to see you here at Agudas Achim, this lovely Independence Day weekend. You know, as a member of the San Antonio Jewish community, nothing says freedom to me like welcoming Kanye West to the Alamo Dome tomorrow night. Now, I've been discussing this concert with various community leaders, even other Jewish leaders in town. I'm sure you all have your own opinions on it. I mean, 2 Jews, 83 opinions. But I've kind of come to my own consensus that maybe we should not give this crazy person any more attention than he's already got. So after this sermon, I promise you I won't burden him with you anymore. We should make it a thing, kind of like Haman at Purim. We say Kanye, boo. But not talking about him makes me a little sad, because the thing that I'm impressed with regard to Kanye West's anti-Semitism is that while it's crazy, it's also highly entertaining. Friends, it is so bizarre that sometimes all I can do is laugh, whether this is claiming that he can't be, quote, anti-Semitic because black people are real Jews, or when he filmed a Super Bowl commercial selling swastika t-shirts while he was getting a dental something at the dentist field, or claiming I love Hitler. Does he not realize that Hitler would have killed him too? Friends, it's just so beyond crazy, and I think it's somewhat humorous and sometimes downright hilarious. I mean, keep in mind, Kanye did eventually apologize for his anti-Semitic behavior, but it was only after he watched a comedy movie featuring Jewish actor Jonah Hill called 21 Jump Street. He watched the film, and it led him to tweet, quote, "I like Jewish people again." Mazel tov, Kanye. I'm glad a mediocre film from 2012 has made you see the error of your ways. So tonight, in honor of Ye's crazy, asinine, yet humorous anti-Semitism, I have decided that we here at Agudas Achim should create an award called, quote, America's Funniest Anti-Semite. And folks, don't worry, I have a great contestant already lined up for you. I know you're all chomping at the bit to find out who it is. So allow me to introduce him to you. Drum roll, please. On Monday, January 13th, 2025, at approximately 7:45 a.m., Travis Keith Garland, 31, who supposedly has ties to local neo-Nazi groups, reportedly arrived at the Gordon Jewish Community Center in Nashville, Tennessee, disguised. He was wearing a disguise. What was he dressed as? A rabbi. Now, what makes this story so funny is not that he tried to infiltrate the JCC. That's egregious and disgusting. But folks, you really need to see the rabbi disguise that this man wore into the lobby. Please find it after Shabbat. He genuinely thought he could fly under the radar wearing this costume and not raise any eyebrows. But his costume is hilarious. His outfit was a magnificent ensemble. It looked like it had been compiled from parts of other costumes found in a Halloween bargain bin. And I want to describe it to you because it was amazing. Firstly, his costume featured a long black robe, like you would graduate from high school in, if you were like a goth or Johnny Cash. Long and black, because, rabbis frequently walk around wearing black graduation gowns. Maybe I need to start this fashion trend. Around the collar of this black robe, he wore a piece of thin white fabric that kind of looked more like a glorified shoelace hanging below his shoulders. Now, I'm thinking that this shoelace was his attempt to replicate a talit. I want to commend him for the effort. His execution, way, way off. Next, he wore an obviously fake beard. It looked like it had been purchased from Spirit Halloween only moments before he put it on. And because he was really going for that unique religious look, he even had fake payas attached, kol hakavod to him. He completed this get-up with a wrinkled black hat. It was so wrinkled and disheveled, it looked like he pulled it off a scarecrow that was guarding a field. That's what he wore. Now, while this moron is not Jewish, I have to give him credit. He really did have a lot of chutzpah. This guy showed up to a predominantly Reform JCC in an obvious costume that looked more like a caricature of an Orthodox rabbi, and he genuinely thought that he could enter the building completely undetected. My favorite part was that according to the police report, when he got into the lobby, he asked to speak to a rabbi, but he was told that all of them had left for the day. So he shouted, and I quote, this is fantastic, quote, "So all of my colleagues have gone home for the evening?" He called them colleagues. And then let's think about this. He was offended that they weren't available to be harassed by him. It just goes to show you that even anti-Semites want to know what the rabbi is doing with his time off. Now, thankfully, this guy was subsequently arrested and charged with criminal trespassing. I've got to say, he left us with an amazing picture of him wearing his rabbi costume. Please go home and check it out after Shabbat. Perhaps what I love most about this story, and what tickles me about Kanye West too, is just the absolute ignorance they display with regard to our people. Like, if you're gonna hate us, can you at least please do some minimal research before you hate us? It seems like for them, Judaism is literally a costume that one can put on or mock or attack, and then they're genuinely surprised when people call them out on it. I think that Jewish leadership, or they think that Jewish leadership only requires a graduation robe and a faked beard, and then they're flabbergasted to find out that that's not the case. For instance, take our Torah portion for this week, Parshat Pinchas, which begins with the ending from a story from last week. Last week in Parshat Balak, we read about Pinchas, who acted with extraordinary zeal and stopped a public act of rebellion against God. Now, whether we are comfortable with his actions or not, and I think many of us are not, the Torah tells us that his motivation was not theater. It wasn't a performance. It wasn't about looking holy. It was about what he believed he was protecting. So our Parsha begins with him, and then something fascinating happens. The rest of the Parsha is surprisingly ordinary. There are census numbers, inheritance laws, daily offerings, the festival calendar, and most importantly, Moses is told that his life is coming to an end, and it's time to appoint his successor. Now, think about this for a moment. If Judaism were merely just a costume like that guy thought it was, this would have been the perfect opportunity for God to say, "Moses, find someone with a really impressive beard, or get someone that wears a majestic robe, or someone whose hat says, 'I'm in charge.'" But instead, Moshe asked God, quote, "Yifkod Adonai, may the Lord appoint someone over this community." And God's answer to Moshe is, "Choose Joshua to succeed you." Now, Joshua is not chosen because he looks the part. We're never told that he looks like Moses. He's not chosen because he dresses like Moses, and not because he can do a Moses impression. He's chosen because he has spent decades becoming Joshua. You see, Joshua's been there the whole time, quietly serving, learning. carrying responsibility long before anyone thought about giving him a title. Because that's actually how Jewish leadership works. And likewise, that's actually how Judaism as a whole works. Nobody becomes a Jew because of a hat. Nobody becomes a rabbi because of a beard. If that were the case, half the cast of Fiddler on the Roof could cover my vacation when I leave. No, Judaism has always cared much more about character than costume, about covenant than clothing, about integrity more than image. And I think that's what exactly so many anti-Semites never understand. They imagine Judaism as something external, like a funny hat, a beard, a black coat, maybe some mysterious Jewish handshake. Maybe they throw a little Yiddish in for effect. Oy gewollt, mazel tov l'chaim. That's good enough for them. But we all know that that isn't real Judaism. Judaism is visiting someone in the hospital. Judaism is teaching children their aleph bet. Judaism is showing up for a minyan when no one else notices. Judaism is making Shabbat dinner every single week. Judaism is arguing over whose kugel recipe is better, and then everybody eats both of them anyway. That's Judaism. You see, the people who hate us always misunderstand us. They think that we're protecting our costumes, but what we're actually protecting is our way of life, our covenants, our community, 3,000 years of looking out for one another. And that's why, as disturbing as that incident in Nashville was, his disguise failed almost immediately. Not because his fake beard was crooked, although that certainly didn't help. Not because his hat looked like it lost a fight with a blender. Because everyone in that building instinctively knew when they saw him, that's not what a rabbi looks like. And more importantly, that's not what a rabbi is. A rabbi isn't someone who dresses the part. A rabbi is someone who serves the community. And a Jewish community isn't built by costumes. It's built by relationships, by learning, by kindness, and by trust. And friends, those are things that cannot be bought at Spirit Halloween. So yes, we can laugh at the absurdity of it all. Sometimes laughter is one of the healthiest responses to ignorance. But we should never forget that beneath the absurdity is something very real. Anti-Semitism remains dangerous not because it understands Jews so well, but because it oftentimes understands us so poorly. It reduces living human beings to caricatures like cartoons. It mistakes symbols for souls. And our answer as Jews has always been the same. Not to simply survive, but to keep living authentic Jewish lives, to keep raising Jewish children, to keep studying Torah, to keep celebrating Shabbat, to keep building communities where no costume could ever substitute for real character. Because as Parshat Pinchas reminds us, the future of Judaism has never depended on what or who looked the part. It's always depended on people who chose to live that part. So this Independence Day weekend, I hope Kanye eventually finds more than 21 Jump Street to guide his moral compass. I hope Spirit Halloween permanently retires its fake rabbi department. And I hope that we choose freedom. Freedom to answer ignorance not with fear, but with proud Jewish living. And may no fake beard ever distract us from the real faces of Jewish courage. Shabbat Shalom.